Hello and welcome back to the channel. In this video we'll be looking at world building, this time looking at the history of your world. The best way to do this, I find, is to think about two critical things. Firstly, thinking about the key moments of the history of your world, and secondly, brainstorming a series of questions related to the history of your world and connected to those key moments. For example, key moments, you can think about how long has the world been there? What are the creation stories connected to that world? Have there been any wars, renaissances, enlightenments, things like this? And how these key moments affect the characters and affect the story. So something that I really like to do when I've got these details, once I've answered these questions and I've got these ideas in my head, I create a small list, and then I move from a small list to a timeline, akin to the kind of timelines we look at in history class. After I've got the timeline down, I usually try to brainstorm, get a few sheets of paper or load a document up, and then just randomly start trying to generate questions. Doesn't matter if they're particularly good questions, just try and go for quantity, try and make as many questions as you can related to these key moments. And that'll allow you to start thinking and unraveling these key moments and what they mean in your world. So for example, questions such as what are the belief systems in your world? How long have these belief systems been around for? And how does this affect the belief systems and the followers? Has it been around for 5 years, 10 years, 100 years? Is it the most established religion? And also, if there's religions in this world, are there any beliefs? Are there any fables or legends connected to the creation of this world? This is more relevant especially if you're doing fantasy, but it can definitely exist in science fiction too, or even the modern world. What is the economy of your world like? You know, are people poor? Is the average person well off? How easy is it to set up a business? Do you need a lot of political connections to open a business in your world? Or is it quite easy? And how has the economy changed throughout the history? Has there been dark ages where incredibly poor? Has there been famines? Or is everyone relatively well off and that's something that's going to go wrong in your story? What are the systems of government in your story? And how have these been affected by history? And what do people think of the governments? How do the governments act? And what kind of government, you know, is it an autocracy, a meritocracy, is it a democracy, is it a monarchy? Again, these kind of things will allow you to start sketching your world out. And again, like in the previous video, start small, start with a town, and then those details for the town can apply to cities. Oh, but cities are usually more multicultural, so what does this mean? Etc. And once you've done this, what I like to do is I like to try and think about how these events, these key moments, and these things that have influenced or have been influenced by these key moments, I start to think about how they are connected to the story. Some of these things are relevant to the story because these are the themes that I want to explore, but some of these things will definitely not be looked at in your story, and that's because you don't need to lay on the detail for absolutely everything. You can hint at these things. And lastly, something that I really like to do once I've thought about the history, the key moments, and asked these questions and brainstormed all of these different ideas such as the economy, the lifestyles, the religions, the governments, the businesses, etc. After all of these things, I really like to try and draw a basic map. Maps especially apply to fantasy writing or role-playing as well, if you're playing role-playing games. But creating maps is a very good way to get this physical space of the world out of your head and onto something more concrete which you can visualize and you can pull from. And also it acts as a very good tool, especially when you're developing your story, and you can pick out those plot holes. If you've mentioned somewhere is northeast or somewhere, but in your head you've changed it. If you have a map, it's easier to stay more consistent with the details of your world. So in this video I recommend two books. The first one is The Kobold Guide to World Building. It has a lot of details talking about like government systems, you know, magic. It's specifically for fantasy world building, but it's an excellent resource and it has a lot of different advice, it has a lot of different tips examples of these things, and a lot of practices used by professional writers on how they create their fantasy worlds and the kind of things they think about. So that's book 1. And book 2, if you're interested in drawing maps, there's an excellent book called How to Draw Fantasy Art and RPG Maps. Again, this is something that some people might find really useful. It's something that I find useful because I also roleplay on the side. So it's something that I think might be useful, especially for fantasy. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please like the video, please comment, let me know what you think in the comments below. When you've been writing your fantasy worlds and when you've been writing your stories, what do you do when you think about the history of the world? What kind of details do you love to explore? What kind of techniques or activities or exercises do you like to do to brainstorm the world and to get more details of your world? Let me know in the comments below. I'll be interested in hearing what you have to say too. I'm doing this essentially because I want to just build a community of resources, of videos, of my advice, of my experiences, and again I'm constantly learning as well, so I'm constantly learning throughout this process for you, and I'm devoting my time to this myself too. I will also be vlogging when I can. I'm currently sorting some technical issues out of that, but I should be able to start vlogging relatively soon. I hope you've enjoyed the video and have a nice day.